Hi everyone, welcome to The Explorer.
Speaking Lesson 1. Today's lesson is about Part 1, Individual Presentation. I'm going to use the MPM sample question in this lesson, and if you have not printed out the question paper, you can actually do so by using the link in my previous YouTube, that is Introduction to Speaking. Now let's take a look at the situation for all the 4 candidates. It is important to be healthy. Suggest some ways to keep healthy. Okay, so this is the situation for all the candidates in the group. For those of you who have forgotten what Part 1 individual presentation is all about, let's take a look at the slide here. As I've told you earlier, all the candidates are given the same situation. So in this case, look at the situation at the top. It is important to be healthy. Suggest some ways to keep healthy. So this is the situation given to all the 4 candidates in the group. However, each candidate will receive a different suggestion or opinion to the situation. So if you look at A, candidate A, he or she will have to talk about the importance of what and when people eat. Candidate B talks about the importance of getting enough rest. Candidate C about the importance of exercise. And candidate D will have to talk about the importance of seeing the doctor regularly. During your 2 minutes of preparation, you should organize your text with a clear outline. A clear outline is really very important because this will give you a more systematic, effective presentation later on. Now, as you can see in the table given, you should start with the introduction. So in your introduction, you need to greet the examiners and other candidates in your group. Then state the task given. After your introduction, you will come to the content. So in your content, you may present 2 or 3 points with elaboration. And finally is your conclusion, where you summarize the main ideas and you conclude. You can take a look at some of the useful expressions on the right hand side. Now, I will talk about this in detail in my next slide. For today's lesson, we will look at the task given to candidate A. Situation given, it is important to be healthy. Suggest some ways to keep healthy. And candidate A will have to talk about the importance of what and when people eat. As I've told you earlier, when you organize your text for presentation, it is important that you organize your ideas into 3 main sections, namely the introduction, the body or the content of your presentation, and finally is your conclusion. Now let's take a look at each section now. The first one, introduction. In your introduction, you need to greet the examiners and other candidates in the group. Then state your task. Let's take a look at some ways to greet the examiners and also other candidates in the group. The first one, good morning, or good afternoon, teachers and friends. Second one, good morning, examiners and all my fellow friends. Good morning, everyone. Because these are some of the examples that you can use when you want to greet the examiners and other candidates in the group. Right. We move on to the second one, state your task. Now, when you state your task, always remember to refer, right, to your question paper. So as candidate A, okay, you are candidate A now. So if your English proficiency is not very good, look at the situation, look at the task given. You can try this way. Right? So take a look at number 1 now. There are many ways to keep healthy. I will talk about the importance of what and when people eat. Okay, so you see, so these two sentences are found in the situation as well as in the task given. So what you need to do is you take the two sentences from there and you present it. That's how you state your task. If your English proficiency is better, you may try, right, this way. Being healthy should be part of our overall lifestyle. There are various ways to keep healthy. In my opinion, it is important to know what and when people eat. Next is the content. This is the most important part of your presentation. It would be good to come up with 3 points as suggested and the elaboration for each point. Now, as for me, I think 2 points with good detailed elaboration are sufficient. Most students have problems to generate ideas or come up with points during the 2 minutes preparation. Today, I'll teach all of you how to generate points using the acronym PEER. PEER. P stands for point, E elaboration, E example, and R is reiteration. Reiteration means repeat or recap. Alright, now at the same time, you need to use the 7 WH questions such as why, what, who, when, where, which, and how to help you in your elaboration. Now, I tell you more about this method in my next slide. Before I teach you how you can generate ideas using the PEER acronym, let's take a look at Candidate A's task again. Candidate A's situation is ways to keep healthy, and he has to talk about the importance of what and when people eat. Now, as Candidate A, all of you will have to think of the content now, and you need to come up with point 1. So when you generate ideas for your point, don't forget to think of PEER. P for point, E for elaboration, E for example, R for reiteration. Right? And when you brainstorm for your ideas or your elaboration, you need to make use of these WH questions. Now let's start. The first question I asked myself is why? Why is it important to know what people eat? Why is it important to know what people eat? And my answer is that I remember the saying, you are what you eat. What does it mean? What is the meaning? What does you are what you eat imply? So it implies that if we eat healthy food, we will be healthy, and vice versa, if we consume unhealthy food, it will make us unhealthy. How can we make sure that we eat healthily? How can we know that the food that we eat is healthy? We must learn about balanced diet by following the food pyramid. Okay, so you see, these are the questions that I asked myself, and the 3 WH questions that I use: why, what, and how. and I have got the answers which I have written at the side. Of course, during the real exam, you can't be writing that long, so you might have only some keywords. All right, okay, so for explanation purposes, for today, I have written quite a long phrase and a sentence for you, okay, so that you get a clear idea. All right, okay, so with 3 WH questions, you are able to get the point and the elaboration. All right, so P and the E. Now after that, we come to the examples. All right, to the examples where you need to give examples of food that we should eat more. All right, and what kind of food we should avoid. And maybe you can even ask yourself why we should avoid that kind of food. Okay, so what will be what kind of food that you should eat more, and what kind of food you should eat less, and why. Okay, so what kind of food you should eat more? Eat more fruits and vegetables. What kind of food you should avoid? Okay, or we should avoid junk food, sugary drinks, sweets, pastries. Right, and why is the reason that this food is not good for our health? Right, so the answer given contain a high number of calories. Okay, so these are examples of food, okay, that we should avoid and we should eat more. If you can think of other examples or more examples, of food group that our body needs, maybe you can even talk about it. So what kind of food, right, that our meals, or what kind of food group that our meals should contain, so sufficient intake of what? Vitamin, minerals, carbohydrates, proteins, and essential fats. Okay, so these are all examples, all right, of the food group or the different types of food that our body needs, and the type of food that our body that we should avoid. Okay, so once you have done, right, the example, then you can reiterate, all right, by writing along. I've given you along the full sentence, okay, saying that healthy food helps us to grow, be strong, and keep us healthy. Therefore, what we eat really matters for our health. So this is your reiteration. It's sort of like you re-emphasize, right, or repeat your points. Okay, so what I want you to see is that this is quite a long explanation, right, okay, on how you can generate ideas and elaborate on the point that you have thought of. Okay, so easier said than done. Alright, okay, my students always complain that they ask questions, right, to themselves in order to generate points, but they don't have answers to the questions that I ask. Okay, so of course you can't think of the answers when you do not have enough practice. So believe me, you need to have a lot of practice. Practice makes perfect, but at the same time, you need to be well read in order to improve your language proficiency and also your knowledge on a certain subject matter. So in this case here, if you don't even know about the food pyramid or a balanced diet, definitely you will not be able to come out with points concerning the food pyramid, or even talk about how or why they should eat healthily. All right, okay. So therefore, my conclusion is that you need to read more in order to be able to speak, write well. Let's move on to the second point. Usually point 2 is shorter, as your point 1 is long and well elaborated. Now don't forget, you're only given 2 minutes to present your ideas. So for point 2, we use the same procedure. You need to generate your ideas again using the acronym P, E, E, and R. Now this time, the R is not mentioned in the point 2 because you are going to repeat the points in the conclusion, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. So for the second point, you need to talk about when people eat. So my question is, what is the meaning of when people eat? It means eating our meals at the right time. And why do you think it is important to eat at the right time? This is because it gives us many benefits, such as weight maintenance, higher energy level, and help to fight diseases. And of course, the end result is it keeps us healthy. Right, eating at the right time is important. Then, when is the best time to eat? We should eat when our metabolism is higher. That's during the day when we are active. Okay, so you see, you have used 3 WH questions, what, why, and when, to generate your point 2 and elaborate it. Now for examples. Okay, so for examples, you will talk about the different meals you eat in a day and the time you will consume the food. Now you take a look at the answers on the slide as I ask questions. What is the most important meal to start the day? And what is the benefit of not skipping breakfast? What is the best time to take lunch and why? What about dinner? Is it good to take late dinner and why? So in short, by asking questions using the WH questions, you'll be able to generate ideas. Now, of course, it is not as easy as you can think of, but I believe that practice makes perfect. The last section is the conclusion, where you need to summarize the main ideas and conclude. If your language proficiency is not very good or you are running out of time, then you can conclude in a very simple way by looking at the task given. In conclusion, what and when we eat is important to keep us healthy. Or, if your language proficiency is good, you can have a longer conclusion. For example, we must make sure our daily intake of food consists of all the nutrients that our body needs, while the right meal timing can reap many health benefits. In conclusion, what and when we eat is important to keep us healthy. This is how your content points look like. Now, of course, during your 2 minutes of preparation, you can't write so much in long sentences, but you will only write down the keywords in the form of a mind map. What should you do when you deliver your oral presentation? Remember to speak confidently in a calm and clear voice. Always maintain effective eye contact with the examiners as well as your group members, and use appropriate pauses. You also need to use linkers such as besides, in addition, next, for example, and etc. to ensure a smooth delivery of your ideas. Last but not least, to make sure you are on task, mention the keywords in the question given a few times during your presentation. Now, for example, if you are candidate A in the question that I've given earlier, keywords like keep healthy, what and when people eat should be mentioned a few times throughout your presentation. Now, this will help you not to be out of point, and you give the indication to the examiners that you have understood the question. The answers for candidate B, C, and D will be in the next video.
That's all for today's lesson. Thank you. Subscribe the Explorer for more lessons. Have a nice day.